for joining us again. We have another SwingU live episode tonight. This is week 7. Hope everybody enjoyed the Masters this weekend. I know I did. My name is Josh Kelly. If you guys have been with us the last 6 weeks, you know who I am. But for those of you that don't know me, my name is Josh Kelly. I've taught on the SwingU app for over the last 3 years. I'm the owner of the Josh Kelly Golf Academy app that SwingU has helped me build. And I'm just hosting these Monday night lives every single Monday night, just hanging out for about 30 to 45 minutes, talking everything golf, talking, just spitting knowledge, having some conversations, hitting some shots in here, and in an effort to just, have some more fun on the course and play better. So the Masters this weekend, unbelievable to watch. Hideki Matsuyama, congratulations to him, the first ever Japanese-born male to win a major championship. Unbelievable, and to do it at the Masters, it was great to watch. Now, I did have $100 on Jordan Spieth, so I was pulling for Spieth a little bit more, but I did win a Masters pool, so it's all good. My wife was kind of mad at me for looking at my phone and watching my phone, the Masters app, pretty much, 7 hours a day, but she kind of didn't feel as mad at me when I told her I did win the Masters pool. But the one big thing that stood out to me watching the Masters this week, and especially watching it on the Masters app, is, these pro golfers, when they let us watch every single shot of theirs, the one big thing is they hit some really bad shots out there. They hit some bad drives. Okay, they put themselves in some really bad spots. A lot of times we're watching the broadcast and we don't see every shot that players are hitting, and we're seeing a lot of the highlight shots. Okay, the good shots that they're hitting in the fairway, the times they stick it close. But they're not showing these big misses. They have some big misses just like we do. But what separates them is they know how to recover. They know how to hit recovery shots. So that's what we're talking about tonight. We're going to talk about hitting recovery shots, what we need to do to hit certain shots, whether there's a low shot, low draw, low fade, high draw, high fade, whatever it may be. So we're going to have some fun with that. Let's first talk about the low shot here, because we see that a lot at Augusta. We saw a lot of pine trees, obviously, so players were able to find their ball for the most part, but they have to hit these low shots underneath the pine branches. So let's start off with the low shots. And let's start off with the harder of the two for most golfers out there, and that's the low draw. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is practicing these recovery shots on the range. Get on the range and envision trees. Envision shots you have to hit. Because let's face it, it doesn't matter how much golf instruction you watch, no matter how many lessons you watch, how many new drivers you buy, you're going to hit bad shots. So we need to know how to hit these shots. So we not only do we need to be practicing our regular normal swings on the range, but we need to practice these recovery shots as well. Also, what we're going to talk about tonight, along with recovery shots, is how to hit a stinger. So if anyone is watching right now and you want to learn how to hit a stinger, stay tuned. I'm going to talk about that later. And also, we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat. I got my buddy Chris taking a look at the chat. He's going to write them down and tell me the questions at the end here. But first, we're talking, again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about recovery shots, because that's what really stuck out at the Masters, is how well these players were able to recover after hitting bad shots. And let's face it, we've seen some really, really bad shots, a bunch of foul balls this weekend. It's actually fun to see that professional golfers hit such bad shots. But first of all, let's talk about hitting a low draw. Let's just, when you're on the range, you have to envision these shots. You have to give yourself a certain yardage. You have to picture there's a tree here, there's a tree there, so I need to start it here and hook it around, or whatever it may be. So let's do that here. Let's just pretend we have 130 yards to the pen, and we have tree trouble right in my way. I got to keep it low. I got to keep this ball, let's say, 25 feet off the ground. What are we going to do? Well, we have to hit a draw. So number one is club selection. Okay, we need a club that is going to get high enough off the ground, because this is not going to be a full swing. This is going to be a punch shot. But we need a club that's going to be high enough off the ground, but not low enough in loft to where it runs along the ground like a worm burner. Because what we do here to hit a draw is we're essentially closing the club face down to our path. So we're closing the face, which de-lofts the club. So I can't have too little loft. If I have my 3-iron here and I'm hitting a punch shot, okay, the slower the club speed, the lower the ball goes, okay, in theory, and I close my club face down with a 3-iron, it's going to be really hard for me to hit a 130-yard shot here that doesn't run along the ground. And we also don't want too much loft. We can't have a 60-degree wedge here because it's going to go too high and it's going to hit the pine needle. So we need something kind of in between. So this is going to be, it's going to really rely on you practicing these shots to figure out what club you need. But for me, we're going to go with the 8-iron here. So we want this ball to be about 20, 25 feet off the ground at its peak, okay, no higher than that. And we want it to stop at 130 yards. So we're thinking about trying to carry this maybe 110 yards and let it run up, okay? We're going to have the numbers after I hit this shot. And the goal here for me is to keep the launch under 15. If we can keep this launch under 15, then I know I hit a good shot. So we want to hit it 130 yards. We want the ball to start somewhere over here and draw back to my line here. So we have 8-iron in our hands. Okay, sometimes this sensor's a little off in here. Especially when we're hitting recovery shots like this inside the simulator, they don't always register. So, we'll see what happens in here. But what we're going to do here is, again, we're trying to hit a low draw around the tree that runs up. So we're going to close our stance. We're going to have our stance pointing where we want this ball to start. We're going to lay the club down on the ground just right of where I want this ball to end, okay? With that ball on the ground just right where I want the ball to end, then I can grab my grip. The last thing I want to talk about is ball position. We're trying to hit it low. We're trying to hit a draw. What do we do for that? Ball position's back in the stance. Ball position back is going to help us hit it not only low, but also help us to draw it too. Okay, so our feet are right. Club's at the target. Ball position's back. I'll say off my right ear, okay, as a right-handed golfer. And what we're going to do is this is more like a punch shot, okay? And what we're going to feel is that the face here points more at the ground on the way through, okay? So I'm not holding the face open. I'm kind of rolling the hands on the ground. It's going to help me create that draw spin on it. So 130 yards, stance open, okay? Club just right at where I want the ball to end. Ball position's back. Hold off finish. Okay, that's obviously a misread. We talked about that. Sometimes the simulated misread. There's no way that ball just cut. Yeah, it said a swing path 13.4 out to in. That's not correct at all. All right, so the simulator's making me look bad early, but sorry, we'll bounce back. There's no way that was 13 out to in. I'll tell you that right now. Let's try that again here. So same thing. Stance closed, face shut towards the target, swing along the feet line. Okay, there it is right there. That's pretty solid. Drew around. Drew probably 15, 20 yards. That's the same exact swing. Landed 113, so a little bit further than we wanted. But we talked about the launch being under 15. That launch was 13.2, okay? So that's perfect. And it did roll a little bit further than we wanted, but we absolutely erred on the side of caution. The main thing is we want to try to get these shots. Yes, it'd be great to get it close to the hole. But if anything, we need to get these shots up near the green somewhere, okay? So it's just all about trying to save par at this point. So let's talk about hitting a low cut, okay? Because now I want to hit the same shot, but it's just opposite. I want this ball to be low and cut. So the lower cut shot's a little bit harder to hit. Why is that? Because when we set our club face to the target and aim our feet left, what we're doing is we're adding loft. Okay, we took an 8-iron earlier, okay? And when we set that up with the face a little bit closed, that 8-iron became more like a 6-iron, okay? So when we set up here with, got the wrong club here. When we set up here with our feet left and our club at the target line or where we wanted to aim, what's happening in the club face? It's opening, so we need less loft. So now I'm taking my 5-iron. So same identical length shot. All it is we want this ball to be the same height as well. So we're going to look at our launch angle and have it under 15 again. But we need this ball to cut. So we need a completely different golf club. I'm going three different clubs here. Okay, I hit an 8-iron before, now I'm hitting 5. All right, so it's open stance, same thing. Now the ball position here is going to be more centered. Okay, I don't want to stick it back. I know it's going to help us keep it a little bit lower, but it's going to be really hard to hit a cut when the ball position is really far back. So when I'm hitting this cut here, I'm going to have it more centered. Okay, so centered, kind of off the chin. Feet are left where I want this ball to start. Club is at the target. Okay, and before to hit a draw, we talked about how we're going to kind of roll the hands. That face is going to point more at the ground. When we're hitting the cut, that face is going to stay open for longer, okay? And we're going to feel like our hands are a little more in front of the ball to try to keep that loft down. So we're not adding loft. We want to keep this low and cut it around the trees. All right, ball position middle, stance open, club face at the target. Again, we want to hit this somewhere around 130. Let's see what we can do here. Just like that. That's pretty good. That went a little bit further than we wanted. Maybe a little too much momentum here. It landed 130. But as we had a 13.7 launch, so that was identical to our draw shot as far as how high the ball went. So that's a great sign. Let's hit another one. Okay, same thoughts here. Now the ball is gonna tend to kind of rise just a little bit more when we're opening the face. We have to be aware of that. So I am holding the face open, but I'm holding my hands further forward on the way through. Let's hit another one here. Oh, that's a really good one. That's probably exactly what we wanted. Okay, that probably landed 100. Yeah, 101, rolled to 125. That's the exact shot we wanted to hit there. It cut like 15, 20 yards. We saw that so much in the Masters this week, especially on hole 11. Golfers drove it a little bit too far right. They hit that low cut around there, left it a little bit short of the green, tried to get it up and down from there. That's the name of the game, just trying to hit shots that aren't going to get us in too much trouble, that are going to give us chances to save par. Like we said earlier, that's what separates these PGA Tour players so much. So remember, when you're trying to bend it and when you're trying to keep it low or higher, it's all about your position of your ball. It's all about your stance and your club face. Okay, manipulate your stance, club face, and choose the correct club. But what it all comes down to is working on these shots in the range, picturing trees and hitting shots. Try to spend, if you practice, say you practice 8 hours a week. I know that's a little aggressive, but say you practice 8 hours a week. Try to spend like 30 minutes of that time working on this shot. It can be really beneficial, okay? So now let's talk about hitting higher shots. How do we hit a high shot that cuts or a high shot that draws? You might be thinking, oh, Josh, it's easy to hit a punch shot, with a lower club that keeps it low, but how can I hit a high draw? That could be way harder. All right, so let's talk about that. So let's keep with this 130-yard range. I kind of like that. So we're hitting a bunch of different shots at this 130-yard range, and we're talking about different flights. So now I want to hit it over the tree and have it cut, okay? So when we're hitting a cut, again, we're opening the face a little bit to our body line or our body alignment, which is adding loft, okay? So we have more loft on the club. So we're trying to hit this 130 yards. Let's just say 125, 130 yards would be great. Now, okay, I need a club that typically goes further than that because I'm opening the club up. I'm having less loft in the face. So my pitching wedge is about 135, 140. When I'm hitting a really high cut, okay, this is going to go 125, 130. So it's the same thoughts here. The only thing different here is with this cut shot, the ball is a lot more forward. More forward in stance. It's going to help me hit it higher, and it's going to help me even hit that cut. Okay, the further forward the ball is, the easier it is to cut it. Okay, so I'm going to have this ball off my left ear for a pitching wedge that I typically don't do. So a high cut here. Let's see how high we can get this pitching wedge and still get it within 125. Ball position forward, stance is open. Okay, club is going to be aligned where I want this ball to finish. Feet are aligned where I want it to start. Let's see how high we can get this. See if we can get like 30 launch. Get it to about 125. Well, that's perfect. That's really high. I don't know if it quite went far enough for us. Okay, 115. But we got 34 launched there, so plenty high enough over the trees. So we erred on the side of caution as well. That shot would be a little short of where we wanted it, but we know it's plenty high enough. Okay, over 30 launch here for a 120-yard shot is very, very high. We're getting it over those trees. Let's try it again. Pitching wedge, feet left, ball position forward, face is open at the where I want this ball to end. Swing along the feet line, so important. Okay, that's another perfect one. That's cutting probably 15, 25 yards. That one went plenty far enough. 125 yards exactly. That's exactly the shot we wanted to hit with this pitching wedge here. All we did, ball position forward, feet line where I want the ball to start, face it where I want to end. All right, so how do we hit a draw? Now, we talked about the high cut being the easier shot and the low draw being the easier shot. Why is that? Because when we manipulate the face, low draw, the face shuts down, less loft. When we hit the high cut, face opens up. It's pretty easy to understand that a low cut and a high draw are going to be the harder shots to hit. So you have to do a little bit more to make it happen. So 125 yards, we want this shot to go. 125, 130. Now we're hitting my sand wedge. Okay, I got my 55-degree sand wedge here. I just hit my pitching wedge the same distance. But remember, this ball is going to go a little bit further because we're closing down the face. Okay, we're hitting a draw that goes further. So same thing here. The only thing different is I'm not having this ball position forward because if this ball position forward is going to be really hard to hit a draw. Now, I do want to hit it high, so I'm not going to shove it back. I'm going to kind of split the difference and have this right in the middle of my stance. And again, I'm kind of beating this kind of drum here. I'm kind of beating the dead fish that we are just changing our alignment here. We're changing our golf club. We're changing the ball position. We're changing our alignment. We're going to try to, we had about 30 launch there. We're going to try to get 30, 31, 32 launch on this ball so it's plenty high enough, starts right and draws. Now, with this ball being high, we want to finish our hands high, okay? Just like we're doing on this cut shot, we're finishing with the hands high. The higher the hands are, the higher the golf ball is going to go on the way through. The lower it is, the lower the ball is going to go on the way through. So we're thinking high, but we're really going to concentrate on swinging along our feet line so it's in to out, okay? And we're going to have this face roll over with our hands high. So the high draw, harder shot to hit. Let's see if we can hit a 125, 131 here with 30 launch, okay? Face at the target, feet right, swing along the feet line. Oh, yeah. That's like Bubba Watson-esque right there. We got about 25 yards of draw, 32 launch, and a 131 total, 127 carry. That's so perfect. That's exactly the shot that we just wanted to hit. So we hit pretty much the same yardage, same launch, pitching wedge for the cut, sand wedge for the draw. Again, these are shots that you're going to have to work on in practice, okay, so that you know what club to hit, you know how far you need to hit it, and you know how much, body change you're going to need. Because if you're somebody who hits a cut already, like I hit a draw, so the draw is a little bit easier for me to hit. So whenever I'm trying to hit a cut, I really have to exaggerate it. I really have to open my stance, open the face, and I have to feel like I'm swinging way out to in and holding the face open. Okay, so I have to exaggerate. If you're somebody who hits a cut, when you set up for the draw, you're going to really have to exaggerate this draw, okay? Because it's different than what you do. It's a different swing path than what you're used to. All right, so I feel like that's a great opening segment there, just kind of talking about these shots. And the big thing to take away from it is practicing on it and working on it. The next thing I want to talk to you about is, we're talking about recovery shots here, okay? And we've seen some crazy recovery shots on the PGA Tour. I mean, we've seen everything from left-handed shots. Tiger did a left-handed shot from his knee, from the bush, during the match play a few years back, put it to like 1.5 feet. That's a shot he probably practiced before, okay? That's not a shot that he just went out there and pulled off. But you might be someone who comes up against a tree here, okay? So we have a tree here, and we're trying to advance this ball. This happened to me in a tournament here at Langston Country Club last year. I was up against a tree on a par 5, okay? So I couldn't take a stance. The tree's here. I couldn't stand around the tree, and I had to advance the ball 100 yards. So this is a shot I actually work on a little bit. Flip the club upside down and hit it left-handed. Okay, we're only going to try to hit this like 100 yards. This shot is basically just to advance the ball. I was able to advance it 100 yards on the par 5, and I was able to get on the green in 3. Okay, so we're flipping the club upside down here. This might be a little bit harder for a lot of you out there. It's still hard for me, but it's worth working on every once in a while. You never know when you could possibly use this shot. So what I feel is that the hands are really quiet. I don't take it back as far. It's nice and short. And all it is just trying to advance this ball 100 yards. Okay? I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that, but I thought it would be worth just hitting that shot real quick. I went 104 yards. This is a pitching wedge that when I flip the club over, just nice and smooth, nice and short, feel the hands are ahead, and try to advance the ball. That's a shot worth trying, worth working on. Another shot is if you have a tree here, okay, same situation where you can't stand on the correct side of the ball as you would. You can stand up next to it, back towards the target, okay, and do this. We've seen John Rahm do this in the past. He had water on this side where he couldn't stand. He turned backwards, and he hit it to like 10 feet from like 50 yards away. Okay, this shot here, it's worth trying. It's worth like doing every once in a while on the range just in case you get into that situation. Okay, who was watching the Genesis Invitational this year with Max Homa, who got in the playoff. Okay, he got in the playoff with Tony Finau. His ball was essentially up against a tree on the 10th hole. Okay, so his ball's basically up against a tree. Okay, I don't know if you got to see that. But it got to the point where his ball, he couldn't take a backswing. So what he did was he aimed well right. He really hooded his wedge. So closed it well over and just kind of flipped at it with his wrist and just caught the side of this ball and had it go left. Okay? So it's just like that. And he had the ball go kind of back behind him. And guess what? He ended up winning that playoff. So if you don't think these shots are worth practicing or worth trying, they actually are. Okay? So it's definitely worth just kind of fooling around with and trying to get to know these shots here. All right? So the next thing I want to talk about, and I think a lot of people kind of want to talk about that. We talked about recovery shots early here. Some of them are very useful. The left-handed one or the backward shot, those shots, obviously, they might not come up as much, but they are nice to have. But one shot that's so popular is the stinger. Everyone wants to know how to hit a stinger. If you follow me on my hole-in-one trick shot page on Instagram, I hit a lot of stingers on there. Okay, so let's talk about hitting the stinger here just for a minute because it's fun to hit. You know, it's not always the smart shot to hit, but it's cool to impress your buddies, whatever it may be. Let's first get some numbers here with my 4-iron. Okay, you hit stingers. Obviously, the lower the club, the better. The 2-iron, 3-wood. Tiger hits it with pretty much everything, but he typically probably uses his 2-iron. I don't have mine with me right now. I do have one coming. But let's hit a stock 4-iron shot here. It says stock 4. Let's take a look at our numbers, especially the launch angle. Okay, so my stock 4 ball position's a little bit forward of my left ear. Okay, everything else is pretty much the same. All right, that's probably pretty much my regular 4-iron, probably 220-ish, if I had to guess. All right, carry 227. Yes, that's. But the big thing is the launch, 13.8 launch, so essentially 14 launch. Okay, so if I'm hitting a stinger here, I probably want about half of that. So if I can get around 7 here from 14, that's pretty significant. That's half as low as my stock shot. So how are we going to hit this stinger here? Number one, we need our hands forward at impact. We need to de-loft the club. Okay, so this 4-iron, whatever it is, I'm not exactly sure what my loft is, my 4-iron. We need to be half the loft, okay? So a dynamic loft needs to be half of what it started at impact. How do we do that? By getting our hands forward. This is a great drill we talked about. Grab the club a few inches from the head of the club here, from the head. Put it on your left hip, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to take swings and we're going to keep the grip from hitting us in the side. Because if you're someone who flips like this and you get your, that club head passes your hands, you're never going to be able to hit stingers because you're adding loft to the club. So take some swings and try to get it to where the butt end of the grip is away from your side. One good thing is this right elbow kind of stays down and closer to your left arm. Okay, that's a right-handed golfer. So we're staying down, we're driving through, we're holding on to our wrist angles, and we're driving down through the golf ball. That's going to help us keep it low. The other thing we talked about, the higher the hands are, the higher the ball goes. The lower the hands, the lower the ball goes. So I'm going to think a couple of things here. One, ball position is a little bit further back. So before, stock shot is off my left ear. Now it's off, my nose or my chin. Okay, so it's more centered, not back. I don't like when people try to hit stingers by shoving the golf ball back in their stance, and now they're getting really steep and they're chopping down on it, and it's creating a lot of backspin, and it just rises up, goes nowhere. Another thing I don't like to see is people that hit like punch shots and they call it stingers. This ball needs to go about as far as my full shot, okay? That full shot carry 227. It's not going to quite carry that far, but it should roll out to maybe more about 230-ish, okay? So ball position centered. We talked about this drill. That's going to help us keep the hands in front, okay? The arms are going to feel more together like this. We're staying down and through it. And finally, we're getting the hands to finish low, okay? High shot, low shot. All right, so let's hit one here. We talked about it. So we talked about it. Our launch was 13.8, so essentially 14. Let's see if we can get this to 7. 7.5 or 8. Okay, about half the height. I guess we can probably call that a stinger at that point. Wait for this ball to get red here. All right, there it is. All right, ball position centered. We're feeling like we're driving down and through it. Okay, hands in front. So at impact, I want to feel like I'm here. Okay? Covering the golf ball. We're not standing up and flipping like we see so many times. Okay, we're staying down and through it and driving. Hands low. All right, let's see if we can hit one here that goes lower than 8 launch. Let's start at that. Okay, not bad. Low one, definitely low, but a little bit miss hit. Okay, so we got to try that again. It's definitely lower than 8. It says 7.7, but it only went 185 yards. So not well struck there at all. Let's hit another one. It's better. A lot better struck there. Still low, probably about half as low. It went plenty far. Okay, let's take a look at that launch. 9.3, okay? It's still, 5 degrees lower than my stock shot. Okay, so let's see if we can go even lower. See if we can get, that was 9, let's see if we can get to 7. Oh yeah, that's a good one. That is so good. It's going to go plenty far enough, too. That still went 220. Let's look at the numbers. 5.3. And it went 240 total. 203 carry, but 5.3. That's almost a third of our original ball launch. And all we did was a slight change in ball position, big change in our follow-through, nice and low. Okay, like this. You're going to see Tiger's position like this every time he hits a stinger. And lastly, staying down and through it, hands ahead. Let's hit one more for a good measure. Oh, yeah. That's so good. That is hammer, too. That landed 240. Let's look at the launch. All right, 7.9 launch, carried 254. Now, the simulator numbers here, like I said earlier, they mess up sometimes, and I think 254 is very generous. I did hit that really hard, but we'll stick with it. It's making me look good. Sometimes it makes me look bad, so got to take the good with the bad. All right, so guys, that's going to be pretty much it for tonight. So now we're going to open it up to a Q&A. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat right now. We talked about recovery shots. The big thing to take away from tonight is make sure, depending on how you want to hit your shot, all you're doing is changing your setup, you're changing your club, okay? And we're changing how we're swinging a little bit as far as our follow-throughs, okay? And the big thing is to practice these shots on the range. Don't be afraid to practice the left-handed flip club upside down or the backwards shot. Envision trees, okay? Envision how far you have. Try to work the ball a little bit. So when you get in these bad positions, which we all will get in, you're feeling a lot more confident and you have a lot better chance of saving par. Also, you can show off a lot more to your friends and impress them a little bit. So if you guys have any questions here, I'm I'm going to answer some questions real quickly. Yeah, man, in this Masters, it was an unbelievable time, unbelievable weekend of golf. Let's take a look at the chat here. Not seeing any questions in the chat yet, but yeah, we had a lot of fun watching golf this week. And again, we saw so many guys out there hitting bad shots. That's the one good thing about the Masters app that they gave us. We got to watch featured groups, so we saw pretty much every single shot they hit. And I'm telling you, we saw so many foul balls off the tee. Not quite as many as we're used to hitting, but it's just encouraging to know that everyone's going to hit bad shots and to have the comfortability to have a recovery shot in your back pocket, knowing that you can hit it and recover anytime you want. All right, so any tips and tricks to let me take a look at here. This thing disappears. So any tips and tricks to knowing what club to hit? So yes, so there's a couple of things here. Number one, when you're hitting a draw, the ball's going further. Okay, it's easier to keep lower. So you need more lofted club. When we're hitting a cut and you want to keep it low, the ball's going to go a little bit higher because you're hitting cut, so you need less loft. Okay, another thing is how hard are you hitting it? Am I hitting a half-to-half punch shot? Because if I am, the ball's not going to go as high. So if you're trying to keep it low, you don't need you don't need less loft. Okay, because I see so many people hitting a punch. They're trying to keep it low with 3-iron, and the ball is just a worm burner. So it's a lot about practicing and feeling these shots out. But the harder you hit it, the higher it wants to go. When you're hitting a draw, it's going to go further and lower. When you're hitting a cut, it's going to go higher and shorter. Depending on your follow through, your stance, how much open your club face is, there's so many different variables, but it comes down to practicing to figure out what club you want to hit. So I hope that answered your question. Sorry, this chat, it disappears every 2 seconds. Okay. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so sorry, the chat keeps disappearing on me. But the one thing I did see there is there a go-to club when you're hitting it left-handed? And for me, I typically hit a wedge, like a 9-iron or a pitching wedge. Why is that? Because my 9-iron, when we're flipping this club upside down, this is my 9-iron here, this is my 4-iron, you can see that this face is wider. So for a left-handed flipping the club upside down, the 9-iron is going to give you a little more playability. And again, we're only hitting 100 yards. So definitely better than grabbing like a 4 or 3-iron. Just something that's going to give you a little bit of a bigger face. So I hope that answered your question. Sorry, this chat's a little bit tough. All right, so he's saying I tend to keep my swing speed down, which ironically results in better contact. See, this keeps disappearing on me. Better contact and the ball takes off and goes higher. Anything you recommend? Well, I recommend swinging a little smoother in all your shots so you're used to hitting better contact. But yes, so hand position, again, when we're trying to hit these lower shots, the hands have to be in front and they have to finish low. Okay? So that's so crucial. You can't let those wrist angles go too quickly, okay, where you're flipping, and you can't finish high. That's everything there. I saw another question, when's the best time to hit a stinger? The best time to hit a stinger is when you're into the wind, or you want to impress your buddies, or the cart girl just pulled up, or someone has their phone out. Those are the best times to hit a stinger. Honestly, that shot, unless you have it down, you probably shouldn't hit it ever out when you're playing. But if you are into the wind, you want to keep it a little lower, that's probably the best time to hit a stinger. Let's see if we have any more questions. All right, I think that's pretty much it, guys. We went about 35 minutes today. A pretty short little session here, little Masters hangover. No, but it was a lot of fun. We learned how to hit recovery shots. We learned how important they are because it just takes so much stress off your game. If you hit it bad off the tee, wherever you are, you can hit a good shot. You can make par from there. and that's why all these tour players are so good, because they hit bad shots just like we do. So thanks for joining me tonight, guys. This is week 7 of SwingU Live. We do these every single night. My name is Josh Kelly. I'm going to be here next week. We're going to talk about different topics. We've covered a lot of different topics so far, but we're going to keep going. We're going to talk more about equipment, course management, and a lot more other things coming up. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next week.